What's up, everybody? John Eric Polai here with My MMA News, and today's guest will be fighting Natalia Silva at UFC 292 on August 19th. One of my favorite guests to have on the program, Andrea Lee. Andrea, it's nice to see you again. How you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you again, too.
So I was looking at your record and everything before we came on air here, and I actually thought that this was going to be your first time coming up to the Northeast to fight. I was actually mistaken. We did chat about this off air a little bit. Your amateur career, you did make some trips up to the Northeast, but still, long time coming. Just let's start there. How much are you looking forward to coming up to the Northeast, seeing Boston, and just kind of taking in a whole new little area there?
I'm excited about it. Definitely going to be nice to have a change in temperature, and I've never been to Boston before, so that's going to be, it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool to see a new city. It's a big card, and I'm happy to be a part of it, so I'm looking forward to that. And, hopefully I meet a lot of great people, and it'll be a good adventure.
You're definitely going to be able to cool off up here, that's for sure. I could tell you, being up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, it's been a little bit on the cooler side for the summer, so definitely going to get that, that's for sure. Boston, though, it's a very historical city, a lot to do up there. Do you plan on sightseeing, making a little vacation out of it, or maybe not too much? But obviously, fight schedule is very important.
Yeah, unfortunately, whenever I fight, I'm always just business. I don't ever, maybe I should make time for things like that, but it's just so hard for me to kind of, not be focused on the task at hand. So, typically, I like to go out and I kind of stay to my little area, whether it's an Airbnb or it's the hotel. And, most of the sightseeing I get is like to and from the hotel and, or to and from the venue. And, typically, I leave on Sunday. So, and I don't have any plans to stay any longer than Sunday, unfortunately. But after I weigh in, hopefully, I get something good to eat from somewhere.
Sure you'll be able to find if you like seafood. I know Boston has a lot of good seafood, so you'll definitely be able to find something to eat. I know that for sure. So I don't know how many fans know this about you or not. I obviously know from interviewing you now for a while. Pretty funny whenever you're fighting. Typically it's usually in Vegas. I know you fought in Texas a decent amount. You like to pack up the Jeep and actually drive to the location. Louisiana to Boston, little distance there. I'm going to take the safe bet and say you're flying this time?
Yes. I was not one to do that at all. I looked it up and it's like a day's drive, a full 24 hours or a little more than that. And of course, there's no way I would be able to make that in 24 hours. So that would end up being like a 2-day drive. And then of course, just driving through the big cities, that would be, I don't know, that would probably cause me to have so much anxiety, and I would rather just fly and get there and chill and relax.
Yeah, definitely. Don't blame you there. Now, how about as far as staying too? And a lot of times you usually get your own place. You could cook your own food and a little bit easier in that regard. Are you doing that, or are you staying in the fighter hotel?
I am getting an Airbnb, and I was lucky to find one that had a sauna, like in the Airbnb. So yeah, so the place is like pretty nice. It's got a nice sized sauna. It's pretty large, actually. It could fit like 4 of us in there. And then of course it has some lounge chairs, like some massage chairs, and it's got a pool and a hot tub, and it's large enough for all of us. And I think that that's probably the best way to go. I can cook, I can clean my clothes, and I can relax away from the fighter hotel.
That was a very good find by you. That's a very impressive find, too. I don't know how many houses actually have saunas, but glad that you happen to find maybe one of the only few that are around like that. That's pretty cool.
Probably. I got so lucky. I was like, this is going to be convenient as heck. So, I had to get it.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Let's get into now a lot of the fight specifics here. We'll start with training camp. Just how's it been going?
Nonstop, it feels like. I've been training since before my fight with Macy Barber, and it's just been nonstop. I wanted to fight in June. That didn't happen. So I got this August fight. And so I've just been training. It just feels like it's nonstop, but that's good because I feel like I've been getting better and I've been progressing, and it's not just, training during fight camp, and then taking some time off and then picking back up. It's just been consistent, and I like it like that. But I feel like I've been continuing to get better on everything, and hopefully, I get to show that to everybody come August 19th.
And when we first started doing interviews, I still remember, I think at that moment you were still traveling during training camps, going out to Colorado and a few different places. That has, I know, changed a little bit now. You've mostly been keeping everything in Louisiana. For everybody that's out there that might be tuning in and this is their first time knowing that about you, just talk about that kind of transition that you've done the last few years of doing everything back in Louisiana. I know you do a lot in a home gym. It's a pretty nice little setup you guys have down there.
It is. It's just so much more convenient, than having to travel, away from home and not be in my own bed and not be around my daughter. So, everything has just been personalized to me. I have my home gym, so me and my boyfriend were able to train there whenever we need. And then, we structure our trainings at the gym with our other coaches, and all of it is just one-on-one. We have a girl, Carly, Judas, who comes in, and she'll work with me as far as like sparring and other things go. And then of course there's Victoria, who is also another training partner of mine. And then I wrestle with the North Dakota Wrestling Academy with my coach Dustin Burton. And so I'm getting a lot of work, but it's like all structured for just me. And I mean, I think that it's helped me out tremendously. You could see in my last fight, my wrestling, it looked really good. I was 5 for 5 for takedowns, and my grappling is getting better. I mean, I feel like my grappling is always, for a long time, it's been really, really good. But I think that there's always like these small little things that you can tweak, and, it's just fine tuning here and there. There's always something you can get better at. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
And I know you had mentioned Victoria before. It's Victoria Leonardo, who's very nice lady too. I've gotten to interview her, get to know her. She's amazing. Now she, if I'm not mistaken, her last fight fought your opponent for this fight in Natalia Silva. So just how much of that, that Victoria was able to fight her kind of help with this? Like, is she able to come into the gym and say, hey, I noticed when I fought her, she did A, B, C, D, and that kind of gives you kind of a little bit more of an advantage coming into this one?
Well, unfortunately, in that fight, it didn't last too long. She had a good moment there early in the fight whenever the bell rang and, they first got started, but she broke her arm pretty quickly, unfortunately. And it just kind of like, went south after, it seems. So, they have been able to get some feedback, but I mean, most of our feedback that we've got is like through other fights that Natalia has had. And so, we've just been, gathering all information from everything that we have seen on her other opponents.
And, it's funny from doing interviews with so many fighters throughout the years here. Now, everybody looks at things differently. There are fighters that will say, oh, it's absolutely great when you have, people in your camp that have fought opponents to give you insights. Other fighters will say, every fight's completely different. People are constantly growing and evolving and changing. Wanted to just get your thoughts on that as somebody that's a veteran of the sport here.
Yeah, you can never go into a fight and expect to fight the same person that you saw in their last fight. I mean, everybody continues to evolve. And not to mention, you also have to think like, I don't know, is that person going to show up to fight? I've had fights where, I haven't just shown up. It's like mentally, like I feel like I wasn't all the way in. And then there's other fights where I have showed all the way up, and I excel and I look great, and it's just like, you never know who you're going to get sometimes. So no, you can't always just bank on the fights that you've seen. Everybody is always different styles make fights, and you just can't ever go in there underestimating anybody. You can't just assume that, oh, that person's trash, because they look bad in the last fight. Sometimes they just had an off day, and the next time that they fight, they might show up, and if you underestimated them, then that could be your downfall. So that's why I don't ever underestimate anybody.
And that's why you've been around as long as you've been around too, for being able to do all of that there. Let's talk now here, and I'm talking about styles making fights. Let's talk about this fight now, you versus Natalia. Just what have you seen out of her as an opponent so far, and how do you kind of see things playing out here on fight night?
I think Natalia is a great striker. She's very fast. She moves laterally a lot. You know, she's in and she's out, and she likes to throw hits it. She likes to counter a lot. She kind of slaps. She has this like slapping hook that she does, and I know that she landed that on Victoria a couple of times. That did cut her up because it was more knuckle than it was padding. Um, she's quick. She moves a lot. So I expect her to try to counter me whenever she can. I think that she's a really good fighter too. She's good off of her back. She's gotten arm bars and triangles, and so have I. I mean, everybody in the UFC is probably good all the way around. But I think that it'll be a good, exciting fight. I don't know. I don't want to like tell you what I think you're going to see because I don't even know. I mean, I'm training for any situation. I'm training to wrestle. I'm training to strike. I'm training for grappling. So I don't know. I just am only focused on going in there, being aggressive. Tactically, though, I'm not going to get overzealous or anything like that. But go in there and get a finish because last time I didn't get the finish. I felt like I won the fight. The judges took it from me. That's how I feel. And so this time, my goal is to go in there and not let the judges get a decision.
I am glad that you had brought that up. That was going to be my next question for you. Are you going to go out and look for that finish? Because obviously the last fight with Macy Barber, I mean, I personally, awful call on the judges' end there. I thought that was a clear-cut victory for you. And this isn't the first time it happened either. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, let's see here, 3 times you have had split decisions within the UFC. There was, I believe, that fight with Roxanne Modafferi. I think it was unanimous, that one, but the only 3 people that scored at that were those 3 judges that night. I mean, this is like a running theme throughout your career.
Yeah.
Do you think you might have to take maybe some of those chances to go for those finishes, given what's kind of happened so far? Because if you just got wins in those situations, you're in a lot different scenario right now than being number 13. You're probably up by closer to number 3 instead of 13.
I know, yeah. I mean, my fight with Lauren Murphy, I felt like I won that fight in Houston, and that wasn't, and man, I don't even know. But then, of course, my Macy Barber fight, and then it sucks, because when fighters, when we lose like that, and it's like a fight that everybody else, everybody believes that you also won, it really hurts because it's like I know I would, like you said, be somewhere different on the lineup. Like I would still be in the top 10. I do believe that. Not to mention I'd probably be getting paid higher because I would be able to renegotiate for a higher paycheck, than and I'm happy, I mean I'm getting paid decent, but I mean like it does mess up my opportunity to be able to renegotiate for a higher pay when the judges robbed the fighter that I feel like won. And it seems to be like a political choice to me. I think it's kind of like showing like favoritism in a way instead of giving it to the fighter that was the best on that night. And I see it all the time. I saw it, just recently on The Ultimate Fighter. I felt like, it's just, it happens and it's unfortunate, but that's why you got to do your best to leave it out of the judge's hands. And for the longest coming up, I was fighting that way. I was always fighting for a finish, and somehow along the way I just kind of got comfortable, like I guess just getting by, and I don't want to do that anymore. Like I want to get a finish and I want to fight aggressively, and I want to do whatever I can to like keep it out of the hands of the judge because they are not a fan of me.
Even though they should be, because you are a awesome human being, and like I said, it's so hard to believe that you've had so many of these go in that direction. It's so crazy to like not even just one time could one of those just flip into your direction. There, it's absolutely mind-boggling there. But anyway, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I will say this: it sucks too because it's like it really starts to play a toll on a fighter's like mental state. You know what I mean? Not saying that I'm having a hard time or anything, but it does start to like make you think, well, what did I do wrong? Like, I start to doubt, doubt starts to kind of creep in. And then it's kind of, I don't know, you just start to struggle with a whole lot. It's like that confidence that you had, it does kind of start to weaken a little bit. But that's just one of those things that you kind of like got to build yourself back up, and that's kind of what I have been doing. And, I feel like that's gonna like that last loss definitely is gonna help drive me to like go in there and just do whatever I can to keep it out of the judge's hands. So, we'll see.
And that's obviously the difficult thing too about being in an individual sport like that you're in there, because it's not a team sport. You're not coming back the next week or the next day and playing somebody, and there's not, okay, I did good, these 4 people did bad, we'll get it the next time. Individual sports are really tough mentally, that's for sure. But while we're on the topic of fighting, I do have one other thing I wanted to ask before we get into some outside the cage stuff here. Obviously, your division, you're fighting here in August. Next month, following that in September, big rematch in your division where Alexa Grasso making first title defense against Valentina Shevchenko, the longtime former champion. Just want to get your thoughts on that matchup.
I think, man, I've already said that I think that Valentina is going to get the win. I really do. But I love Alexa Grasso, and, I would really like to see her get it. But I guess, in my personal opinion, I think that Valentina is going to come back even stronger. I just think so. She's a really tough opponent to beat when she's on point. And she's got all of the tools. She's so good everywhere. So I'm going to go with Valentina.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how she bounces back from that as well. I believe the same thing, too. I think she's going to come back probably better than ever, be a lot hungrier, too, maybe. She kind of got... Sometimes, you get used to being set in your ways. Yeah. They're always going out, always getting wins there.
Get complacent.
Exactly. Who doesn't get complacent, though? Mothers. And I wanted to ask, you've been sharing a lot on Instagram recently, just different memories of your daughter, like, when she was real young, and kind of, we were talking before we came in here, like, where's the time go? Your daughter's already 12. Just talk about what it's been like, kind of taking all of that in the last few days, like already doing different ballet stuff, and she's not that little kid running around anymore at Colorado Springs or any of that type of stuff.
It makes me sad. I'm so happy and thankful for these videos that, these random memories that pop up on social media. I'm like, I've always been a scrapbooker, and I take tons and tons of photos and stuff. I can hardly take any photos of Ainsley now. She likes taking selfies and stuff of herself. But like when I try to get like photos of her and with her, she's weird about it. But man, the time just flies. I miss her being a little bitty baby. I started dreaming about her being a little curly head girl, little girl, like running around. And I don't know, time just goes so quickly. And she's already kind of getting into those little preteens, a little sassy. And I don't know, she's getting taller than I am, and she's growing up. And for any parent, it's sad to like say goodbye to those sweet little years, that we had. And, I just miss it. I miss her being a little bitty baby. I think about it all the time, man. I was looking at my phone just a little bit ago. I'm always like looking. I'm like, oh, Ainsley, this is when she was so sweet to me. Now she's like a little teenager.
Yeah, to say those teenage years, I'm sure you'll be looking back at all those photos and saying, man, I remember when she was really nice and sweet, because those teenage years definitely could be a little rough. And not only for people that have for daughters, teenage sons could be a little tough on the parents too as well there. I got one other thing that I want to ask you about before we wrap things up here today, just out of curiosity. So I'm sure I've mentioned this on my program a bunch of times. I don't know if I ever told you or not. Big fan of the TV show Jersey Shore. So now they've rebooted the show. They're no longer the 22-year-olds that are getting pissed drunk in a nightclub. They're now adults and have kids, and they take vacations all together. They were just in El Paso, Texas on the episode I was watching on the other day, and they did line dancing. So now this line dancing that they did, everybody's in cowboy hats and doing these secretive dances out there. And I thought of you immediately with the cowboy hat there. So does this line dancing thing, is that just a Texas thing? Is that going to Louisiana? It's just like I have no idea what the southern stuff here.
Well, we do it in Louisiana too. It's Texas, Louisiana. I guess it's a southern thing. Um, yeah, it's like you can do like a two-step or a three-step. I've never been really great at at the line dancing. I've always had to kind of look over and make sure I'm doing it right. Sometimes like I said, I'm not very coordinated when it comes to dancing. So even though line dancing is not that hard to do, it's pretty simple, but I always forget the steps. But yes, it is. It's a southern thing. So Louisiana, they do it too. We have a couple of different clubs out here that I no longer go to, but they, I know that we had this one we called I can't even remember what it was called, but downstairs it was all country and upstairs it was all hip hop. So it was like you could choose where you wanted to go to dance and where you wanted to like fit in. So I mean that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so line dancing clubs do not exist in the Northeast at all. So when you go to Boston, you don't have to worry about going into one and not knowing the dance moves. So no concern there. Andrea, I always appreciate the time. Thank you again so much for making the time for this. Just last thing before you head out for the day, social media so people know where to find you at. If you have any management sponsorships, all that good stuff that you got to plug, take it away. Floor is yours. You get the last word.
Andrea KG Lee is my social media for everything. And of course, I want to thank Rob Jenkins for helping sponsor me, and Dr. Curtis Prejean for sponsoring me, and Healing Panda. And yeah, that's about it. And then, of course, all my coaches and everybody who's been helping me, my training partners. And thank you again, John, for having me on. Really do appreciate it. You help me get myself out there. I mean, I'm not really on social media as much lately, so this is probably the most exposure that I get.